Welcome back to Morning Coffee. Megan here with another video all about organization, goal-getting, productivity, and personal growth. Thank you so much for joining me today as we talk about the 5 most common mistakes people make when they set goals. We are talking about this today because I want you to get it right when it comes to goal setting. I want you to give yourself the permission and flexibility to go after whatever is important to you in your life. If you love videos on goal setting and goal getting, this is the perfect channel for you to subscribe to. Please consider subscribing so that you get notified every time I share a new video. My goal is to have 1,000 subscribers to this channel here this year as a starting place to building our community. So thank you so much for considering subscribing. I think struggling to achieve goals is something that we can all relate to. We've all been there where we've set out a good intention or a New Year's resolution or somewhat of a plan in place for something that we want to achieve. And somewhere along the way, we don't make it happen. And so I think that there is a way to approach goal setting and goal tracking so you can actually make them happen. So let's talk about 5 things you should avoid doing so you can make sure that you make your goals happen. The first thing that you should avoid doing is something you should avoid doing when you are setting your goals. I think that there is a misconception out there that goals have to be these huge, gigantic, social media approved things to be worthy of a goal. Don't make the mistake of believing that any of your goals aren't worthy. They are all worthy. So, when we think of goals, I feel like people think about like losing weight, becoming a millionaire, having 75 million followers on Instagram. Like those are the things we commonly associate with goals. But I want to kind of completely dispel that misconception for you. Goals are anything that improve your life. Anything that's important to you and makes your life better is worthy of being a goal. So maybe you do want to run a marathon, but maybe you also just want to find a better lunch system for your kids. Maybe you want to read a new book. Maybe you want to take a walk with the dogs 4 times a week. All of those things are goals, as small as they are and as strange as it seems to set goals that are that granular. Those are the goals that actually are going to get done. You're not going to be motivated to achieve a goal if it's not something that means something to you. I also feel like people struggle when they set goals. They tend to grab onto goals that they think should be their goal, right? For example, I'm a 30-something-year-old woman. I might grab onto the goal of starting a family because that is what most people or a large portion of people in my age group, women especially, are thinking about right now. So it's easy to absorb a goal from society or from people that you're around or something that people are pushing onto you, whether that be goal, work-related, personal, whatever. Don't let someone else define your goals. And just because someone else has a goal doesn't mean that you have to have the same one or that goal is right for you. That goal might be right for them and not right for you, and vice versa. My goals are going to look nothing like yours, and that is the point. You have the permission and the flexibility to create a goal around anything that is important to you and makes your life better. Don't make the mistake of limiting yourself to these huge goals. Understand that you have complete flexibility when it comes to setting your goals. The next common mistake people make when it comes to their goals is that they do not write them down. I've quoted this statistic in a few other videos, but you are 42% more likely to achieve a goal if you write it down. This is something that I have been doing for the last several years, and it totally works for me because I'm a pen and paper kind of person. I'm someone that likes to physically write something down, physically check something off of a list. But even if you are more of a digital person, there is something attached to putting your goals into a concrete place. So if you do decide to set a goal, which by the way, you can set a goal at any time. You don't have to wait for Monday or a new month or a new year or January 1st to set goals. You can set them at any time, but I digress. When you decide to set a goal, you need to kind of memorialize it on paper somewhere. Even if that's a digital piece of paper, if that's what works for you, that's fine. But again, they need to be written down. They need to live somewhere. There is something powerful about committing yourself to something, right? It's really hard sometimes to keep promises to yourself and to show up for yourself. I think that's one of the big reasons why goals are a struggle to achieve. And when you write it down, you are ingraining it in your mind, in your subconscious, in your heart, in your energy that I am committing to do this thing. I am committing to work towards this thing. So don't make that mistake. If you're going to set a goal, write it down somewhere that you will remember it. The third thing that people struggle with when it comes to setting and getting their goals is that they forget to break them into pieces. Sometimes goals are big things, or sometimes goals are things that are going to take a long time to make happen. And when you're staring at the piece of paper where you just wrote down your goals and you see this huge, crazy, scary thing, like maybe it's getting out of $100,000 worth of debt, and you look at that and you go, like that's a lot. Like I don't know how I'm gonna do that. I don't know where I'm gonna find the time to work on that. I don't know where I'm gonna find the money to make that happen. Like I don't know. Now I'm overwhelmed. And now I feel like quitting before I've even started because I have overwhelmed myself with the destination. You have to take your destination and break it down into smaller pieces. So in this, example of getting out of debt, there's probably a list of debts that kind of add up to that total. So then you might start approaching it by, okay, I'm going to pay off this debt first. This is the amount. And all I'm going to work on, all I'm going to focus on, all I'm going to worry about is this one debt, this one piece of it. I'm going to focus all of my time and energy and attention on this one piece. And once it's done, I'm going to come back, evaluate the process again, see where I am, and identify the next action step. I think that if we don't take the time to brainstorm and really kind of piece out these little actions, you aren't going to give yourself any direction on where you're supposed to go next. Looking at the whole process is way too overwhelming. I often say one of my favorite quotes is, big things happen little by little. We always feel like we have to take huge sweeping action and that the only way to get something done is to just knock it all out as fast as possible. And while that certainly may be the ideal situation, I don't know about you, but I don't tend to have huge sweeping chunks of time or huge sweeping chunks of money to put towards my goals. It's much more realistic that I'm going to have little tiny pockets of time or little tiny pockets of money or little tiny pockets of energy that I can put towards a goal. And that is so much easier to manage. So don't make the mistake of overwhelming yourself when it comes to your goals. Take some time to be intentional about breaking the big goals down into little tiny action steps that you can take along the way. The next thing that people tend to get wrong when it comes to their goals is that they just kind of forget about them. Right? Like even if you do, as we talked about in tip number 2, even if you write them down, if you never look at those goals again, it's not going to be that easy to make sure that you're making traction and moving forward. You have to revisit your goals on a regular basis to check in with them, see where you are. Are you making progress? Have you done those action steps? What's your next action step? So when it comes to setting goals, it's not a one and done process. It's not I set it, I write it down, I'm good to go. It's the constant process of monitoring them and where you are with them and keeping them on the top of your mind. I have a couple resources to help you with this. First, I wrote a blog post directly on this topic, how to keep your goals on your mind. I'm going to link that in the description below, so make sure you check that out for some tangible tips on how to keep your goals on your mind. I have a tool for you that helps remind you of your goals every single day, which is the Start Today Journal by Rachel Hollis. I recently did a video with a flip through of the product and how it works. And even if you don't want to buy this journal, I give you all the information so that you can do the practice on your own in your own notebook. But essentially, it's writing down your goals every single day so that they stay on your mind. So that is a good resource for you as well. The thing that I think motivates me, and I'm sure that I'm not alone in this, is like I like to give myself credit for things that I'm doing that are right. Just in the same way that I enjoy like checking a box off on a to-do list, right? The physical action of checking something off your list feels good. You're giving yourself credit for doing the work, right? So, oops, I did cardio today. I can check that box. I read for 15 minutes. I can check that box. I cooked at home. I can check that box. I think we have to give ourselves credit for the progress that we're making. And it seems like at the time, like we're not getting anywhere. You feel like, oh, these little tiny pockets, they're not making any difference. But when you look back on it, accumulation of small actions is what feels like accomplishment. And so the point of reminding yourself of your goals is to kind of track your progress towards them and give yourself credit for the work that you're doing, right? Like this is the proverbial getting a gold star, right? Like we're adults now and no one gives us gold stars. So, I mean, hey, make yourself a chart and give yourself a gold star. If that's what motivates you, do it. Like live your life, live your best life, do it. But if you don't check in on your goals, track the steps that you're making, you don't give yourself credit for the progress you're making, you're going to feel like giving up because you're going to be like, none of this matters. I have so much farther to go than I could have ever imagined. This just isn't working. I need to quit. So don't make that mistake. Don't make it easy to give up on yourself and your goals. Find a way to remind yourself of what you're working on and track your progress. And lastly, the last mistake that people make when it comes to their goals is that they feel like they are on some sort of either self-imposed timeline or society-imposed timeline. I'm sure many of you out there are familiar with the SMART acronym for goal setting. It stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Those are the 5 characteristics of a good goal based on that framework and that thought process. And that last one, time-bound, means that you're giving yourself a deadline. Now, I will acknowledge, there are certain goals that have a timeline, right? Like if you signed up to run a marathon in July, well, you do have a deadline, right? You gotta be in marathon shape by July. Those sometimes are more short-term things, right? Like that's a goal that I need to achieve in 6 months or 3 months or whatever, like saving for a vacation, for example. But there are goals that don't have a timeline. So for example, we want to buy a lake house someday. And so it's like, that's a goal, but it's a long-term one. It's going to be in my life for quite a long time. I don't know exactly when that's going to be. And to put an arbitrary deadline on it now would just discourage me, right? If it feels too far away or it feels too uncertain, it's not going to help you in getting it done. So I think it's important to give yourself the permission that some goals may never be done. Like you might have a goal to be an exceptional mother. That kind of goal is never going to be done. That's going to be something you're always working on. Or a goal is going to be so long-term that you can't put a timeline on it. I also feel like it's easy to get discouraged when a goal doesn't happen on a timeline. And our instinct is to beat ourselves up or to criticize ourselves for not getting it done. And I would encourage you to be a little bit more empathetic for yourself, be a little bit more understanding, give yourself some more grace. Like, okay, I wanted to pay my car off by March, but then COVID-19 hit and I lost my job or my husband's hours got cut. And the most important thing for me at that point was saving money instead of spending it on debt. I needed it in my savings account. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Your priorities are going to change. Your life is going to change. And this isn't about giving yourself an excuse to not get a goal done. This is about allowing yourself the flexibility to keep your timelines either far out, if that's what they need to be, undecided, if that's what they need to be, or to change deadlines and not beat yourself up if they have to change because something else in your life changed. Don't let a time frame, arbitrary or self-imposed or actual, stop you from, again, just making the progress towards the things that are most important to you. Those are my 5 things that people typically get wrong when it comes to their goals. I want you to get it right. I want you to feel like you have everything you need to make your life be as good as it possibly can be. I know you want to be the best version of you. I know you want your life to be the best version of what your life can be. And I'm here to tell you that I think that it's possible. I want you to know that you can pursue your own version of more and you can love the way you feel while you do it. Hopefully these tips were helpful for you. Comment below with a goal that you are currently working on. I'd love to encourage you and I would be happy to share one of mine with you as well. So comment below. Make sure you subscribe to this channel so you don't miss my next video on Sunday and Wednesday. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I hope you have a great rest of your day.